Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I Bancroft being joined once again by Nick, and like always, Fluff.
Hey,
Hey, what's up, people? Jimmy can't join because he's got the runs.
That's something. Like always, the ones down below, feel free to click them. They're there for a reason. Today's matchup is Vegeta from set 15 versus Surge Broly. Me versus Nick. Let's get on with this. So this is at our past weekend, which we did have a best of three going on, and this is one of the later rounds during my Nick's matchup as well. So once again, I'm in the mindset of going, okay, if he sides for hand control, I gotta know how to play against that. So let's take it away. Nick, what was your reaction playing against this, or sorry, what was your mindset going into playing against this deck? Something we've not seen in our locals lately.
well, I read the cards when they came out, and I knew it was a semi-hand control deck. But after playing round one against Jimmy with starter deck Broly, I was like, it can't be any worse
That's
than
true.
that. So
That's true. Jimmy did play hand control as well, so
yes, so I was like, I feel okay because I'm in the mindset already. I played against a resource denial deck, so I kind of was expecting it a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. And all in all, I think my deck performed pretty well in this matchup, or just the whole round in general. I was able to come through, and it worked. It worked well. Now, what about yourself, Bancroft? How did you feel? Because I've played Surge Broly from time to time, so you kind of know what I like to do with it. So, how did that feel with your matchup against this?
so going into this event, after looking at all these cards, I knew what was going to be tough will be playing against anything that's red. Red has the ability to kind of like neg things out, which is unfortunate because they typically can do that during your turn instead of their turn, which kind of goes against the leader's autos. And this is kind of where I feel like that restriction on the leader, where it has to be your opponent's turn to get those effects, is really painful because in this instance where red could go, okay, like you have after images, you have like, is that all you got? You have cards that could be arrivaled and whatnot. Because we also had a cooler player this past event this weekend as well, and like those type of decks could just play their cards during your opponent's turn, and then this auto is never procced because of that, either on the front or the back side. So I knew whatever I did, I had to make sure I carefully did it, because if I incorrectly said, okay, cool, let me attack, and like in this case right now, it's pretty scary if I were to attack you, if you left your 2 energy open, which I don't remember if you do or don't, but you can always combo and then arrival right afterwards, get rid of my cards, and then I'm like, well, there's a great auto, because the leader, in my opinion, is kind of crappy. It does stop your opponent from, like against blue. Blue has a lot of ways of doing it during their turn. No, sorry, blue. Majin Buu Unison does it during your turn. So, no, never mind. Yeah, it's an uphill battle.
Well, that's good. uh, because with Surge Broly, yeah, it's all about the combo step, and this deck has just so many options to remove on either player's turn. With the SSB Gogeta Resonant Explosion, Champa Beerus, Capricious Gods, and Broly Tragedy Foretold, I can KO, I can neg. I have pretty much the best of all worlds in terms of removal, so I got a lot of ways to clear fields.
Yeah, and I think you added a Sin Shinron Unison to your deck, which is a beautiful Unison to go up against, or to have on your side, because in this instance where like a lot of my cards swinging at you are probably like 15, maybe 20. If they're in that maybe category, I don't have to up combo a card to potentially get rid of your Unison. 'Cause that Unison's really strong, just negging cards immediately right away. And I felt like in our games you were more comfortable doing that, and we'll see as we progress in this match that you just immediately just kind of pitched a card, and I think like halfway through I'm like, discard. Oh, you already did. Never mind.
Yeah, the way I was drawing in this game, in this round in particular, I wasn't getting too much battle interruption on your turn, so I kind of just realized I had to play through it. But with the Sin Shenron Unison, it's just perfect. I mean, I can technically get around removing via skill because with the Senshin or on Unison, I can with any of my red cards can attack cards in active mode. So I can intentionally swing at your blockers or swing at your active mode stuff without having to use any of my skills inherently. So it's a really neat way of me to add pressure without having to worry about the tax, which helped a little bit in this game.
And this Bio Broly King Vegeta, I absolutely love to be able to get it pulled off finally. So I Bio Broly'd the +1, I got the 3 markers. And I will openly say, Nick, you have a tendency to want to kind of just attack unisons or attack battle cards because you're trying to deny your opponent resource, which makes sense from attacking their life or potentially getting someone to awakening state. But sometimes I'm okay with that. Like, I played the Bio Broly expecting you to hurt it last turn, and you didn't. So I'm like, okay, cool. So you, in my opinion, in that moment was just kind of wasting attacks away, which is perfectly fine for me.
Yeah, it's my character flaw. I don't like it about myself, but I know like a good portion of my decks rely pretty heavily on unisons. So in my mindset, I feel like in majority of decks they are pretty important. So I tend to go after them more often than not. But in the grand scheme of things, most of the time it doesn't hurt. Now in Surge Broly, you kind of want to play it a little more aggro. That's the deck. It's meant to be aggro style, so I feel like I'm playing it a little bit wrong. But at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt because I still have options to play defensively now. At least with this version of the build. My old version, I was running a lot more red-green multicolor cards, so defense was kind of hard for me. But after making the tweaks to the deck, making the updates, adding some set 15 and stuff, I feel like it's in a really good place to pivot to however I want to do it. If I wanted to play aggro, I could push real hard. If I wanted to play a little more defensively, slow the game down, I can do that too.
Yeah, and I think this particular round, if I recall correctly, your draws weren't the greatest, which allowed me to benefit more on the hand control aspect of it as well.
They were not. They were absolute dog water. At this point, I didn't really have an arrival piece, so I kind of had to use a super combo inadvertently just in order to arrival something out. Because one of the biggest plays is Piccolo Junior Eradicator piece, and it's real easy with this deck to get something else on board for Alliance. I'm running the Videl counterplay. I'm running Capricious Gods. I don't know if it came up in this matchup, but I'm also running SS3 Goku One Hit Wonder. That'll play whenever you neg a battle card. So I have tons of ways of getting pieces out for Alliance, and I just needed to do something in order to keep the pressure on. And Piccolo Jr. is the main draw engine to the deck. With Surge Leaders, they don't inherently draw on the backside, and being able to draw 2 with Alliance is huge. It keeps the hand healthy, and more often than not, you're spending not that many resources to get the cards on board themselves. So if you're able to keep a Piccolo Jr. or have multiple in hand, you're able to get your hand back up pretty nicely.
Yeah. And here you only had 2 cards, so I was able to just Ruby and get them out of the way. And this might... I know there's one turn coming up where I just used Tapion to get a nice little draw. I will say there's a turn where I forgot to play it, and I really kicked myself for it. I don't know if it was this round or not, because I put it in the drop just now, so...
Yeah, because having the blockers is one of your main defensive pieces, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Nick, you said your hand was a little lacking. What were you lacking that you would have rather have seen more of?
Well, I like to see Gotens. Those are the main combo piece for the deck, and it also helps filtering because you get Dormant Legends out of the deck. You can see I charged one turn 2, so seeing Dormants 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a dead card in your hand. And after playing one round previously against this deck, I think I also have Violent Rage in my hand, if I'm not mistaken. And you just kind of saw I just drew another Dormant Legend. So I'm just getting some dead draws, just not much. The Napo is super helpful, of course, but I was getting some of the combo pieces, but not the right pieces to play anything, if that makes sense. So like I have Nappa, but I don't have Gogeta or Capricious Gods in hand. So I'm getting half of everything I need.
Gotcha.
I would say this turn you're also being, because you're swinging for my leader now too as well. So I feel like you're trying to be a little more aggro, and I'm able to get rid of that super combo. I don't like it when you keep those things on the board, because either A, they're just free alliance target. Okay, you're targeting my 2-drop. Or B, you could just turn around and just recombo it for another a rival target.
Yeah, the Nappa in this deck list is stupid good. Mostly, especially on the unawakened side, because you combo it and you get a draw off of it. So it's like the best of both worlds out of a super combo, and you can do it twice potentially. So if I'm running 2 in this list, so potentially I could get four combos, 4 draws. Pretty good. And then this is where one of the big final plays happens. The secret ID, trying to clear my board, and then I just didn't want you adding that pressure from it, so I decided to hit it with the Dell to negative 20,000.
Yeah, which is just amazing. Because now it's a 5k. But it served its purpose. It got rid of your Eradicator Evil and your Champa Beerus.
Yeah, and the good thing about this now is I do have a 10k body on board, so if I do happen to draw into another Eradicator piece, or at least I have something else to still Alliance. And the good thing about it is it's a Spirit Boost 1, so I'm not really paying too many resources for it. Granted, this leader is really good about clearing Unison, so it kind of hurt. It can hurt sometimes, but I would rather have that on board than taking a 25k hit. And then one of the biggest problems about placing against a hand control deck, at least with mine, is awakening is kind of rough. I have to have at least 2 cards in hand in order to awaken. So this is when things are starting to get a little bit tricky for me. I finally was able to get the Goten off to keep defense and stuff. But if I don't have cards in hand, at least 2, then I can't awaken, so I'm kind of stuck. Especially you being able to play something big, a big bomb later on where I can't defend myself, or I just have to take hits until I get something. It's really important to keep that in the back of my mind while I'm placing this match, because I have to. Granted, I'd like to have stuff on board to keep pressure on, but I do need to awaken eventually.
Right there, I went to combo a card off, but then I was like, oh wait, I can just combo this card off, I'm not going to attack with it. And Nick, you allowed me to combo off the Secret Identity.
Yeah, I'm a nice guy.
Go on.
Go on.
I was going to say, the leader on the backside can rip markers from Unison. We haven't seen it yet, so it's pretty cool. So I swing towards the Unison, all I got to do is combo 1 card, and that's 2 markers for the price of 1 attack, which is pretty nice.
And at the end of the day, I'm kind of okay with it, because you don't really have a way to refill your hand besides super combos in this, at least in this matchup. So I was kind of okay with you hitting the Unison. It protects my leader a little bit more, and you have to spend resources in order to make the hit stick, which is fine by me.
Yeah. And I think this is the turn. Yeah, so I've already passed, and we'll probably showcase on the screen in a second, but because I comboed a card off, and then I comboed off for Brienne during your other attack, like, I'm just not seeing the Tapion right now. And I think I kind of pointed out, I'm like, well, I never called it. Too much has occurred. I'll just put it back in my drop area. So.
Yeah, and as you can see here, I +1 on the Unison, but I didn't neg. That was just because I only had 2 cards in hand, so I needed to awaken. And since he was at 2 open energy, I was able to kind of ret him. And it was funny when I did that too, because he kind of did this like double take of your energy. You're like, oh, I guess I do have to.
Yeah, it threw me off. I don't normally have, because if you remember, I almost paid 3 energy early on. And they're like, no, hang on, I'll do this play instead. So I think I still had in my mindset that I'd only tap 3 cards instead of 2 cards.
Yeah, and the Crown of Red is huge. The Sin Shenron can peek the hand with a -2, but if your opponent has 2 open energy, you just Crown of Red play it, then you get to peek the hand even more. So it's really good to snipe big pieces like super combos, the floodgate cards, battle card counterplays. It's huge.
I even questioned, I was like, man, didn't you say your 2-drop will KO my card? Why are you swinging into it, man? And you were like, because. And I'm like, whatever. Trying to get the auto to kill it instead of you attacking it.
Yeah, because it would still technically happen on my turn because it's end of turn in my phase. I didn't want to drop a card, so figured might as well just get rid of it. Then I was so sad when my Saiyan Shenron went away.
I wasn't.
And now my hand size has been pretty low at this point. I think I have 2 cards in hand. So I opt not to charge. I'm just thinking, how am I able to get him down more so I can just close it out? At this point, it's more or less just top deck Jesus just trying to help me out here. Didn't do much this turn because I don't remember what I have in my hand, but wasn't enough to actually keep going. So
yeah, like I think that's what we're talking about now. But the once you awaken, there was like a point where you just constantly had like 2 or less cards, and I just kept on trying to keep you at that low point because I've seen your Surge Broly deck before. Like I know what you can do, and I'm like, I just gotta keep him from having a big hand, which gives he'll most likely have nothing to play then. And so here, pay the 2 for Rubian. Just get rid of those. Just get rid of those cards.
yeah, and one of the downsides with this deck, as I said earlier, is you do run a lot of multicolor cards. So sometimes the cards can just be dead no matter what you do. Like you can't even charge them right because they'll come in energy exhaust. So it's it can get kind of weird depending on what you're drawing. I've tried to minimize that with this build, which you'll see a list of it later on. But sometimes you just hit awkward stuff, and it's pretty frequently from time to time. But this it did, since I was at such a high life total, I wasn't really worried about much yet. Granted, there could be some big bombs that you play in your deck that I don't know about, but sitting at 5 life with you having almost nothing on board, I was kind of not worried at this point.
One of the problems that I'm seeing with the Taxgeta deck is that you've got Nick on no cards in hand, and you don't have a way to capitalize on that.
Well, I will say that does break down to the way Nick was playing as well. He was able to constantly keep anytime I tried to play a card that would benefit me to continue playing cards, he stopped that right away.
Yeah, that's true. Well, having a crit on field to crit him out of his life every turn, that would be monumental at this point. And instead, you decide to go in heavy on this Frieza, which I love the tech of this Frieza, and especially this matchup.
If correct, I think that Frieza was actually part of my sideboard, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw it in there in case I need to see it. I can't remember if it's part of my main board or not, but that's why I paid the 1-drop Vegeta, so that way I can still have access to the field card, to just be able to free play it right afterwards. And
I sent Shenron, and I was so sad.
And I know that being at this point now, Nick's at 3 life, which means Surge Broly's active. Whenever he wants to pop to his abilities, he totally can.
Yeah, and I've had enough practice with this deck where I kind of know which one I'd rather do. A lot of people just assume that I'm just going to pop a battle card with the effect, which is hella good, don't get me wrong. Because even at this point, when I do it, you kind of about to take the Golden Frieza off the field, but I didn't want to do that because I have a super combo in my drop area. I have Paragus, so what I'd rather do is I can defend myself with the super combo. He can't attack with the Golden Frieza in again, and then I get to draw 2 Warp 1. So any super combo that I throw in the drop area, it's going to be live. If I have a Goten in the drop area, it's going to be live. So you just get so much insane value off that for literally nothing.
And we'll catch up real quick in a second. When you played Chomping Beers, that was the last card in your hand, so you have to discard a card. I do get my extra draw in a moment because it's just something that slipped my mind for a moment. Oh yeah, I do get to draw off that because I think I draw for it. Oh wait, that was your turn. Yep. Yeah. That's why I didn't do it. That's right. Okay.
And lo and behold,
top deck Jesus, like you called earlier. I remember you picked that, you drew your card, and I'm like, oh shit.
Secret Rare for the win. It can steal you games, especially if your opponents, even if your opponents have like 4 life. Because if you swing with Broly, it gives your leader double strike when you do the combo effect, and then you automatically do 2 damage with the Secret Rare. Then you're already in kill range, so you can be really sneaky with that Secret Rare.
So, with that being said, hope you all enjoyed today's video. Keep in mind there's buttons down below and on the screen while Fluff does the outro.
Man, what a good game. Hopefully we get to see more of both of these decks as we move forward. If there's anything that you'd like to see us do or any 2 decks that you'd like to see match up with each other, please let us know. We'll do our best to try to make that happen. But as always, read your cards, know your plays, let us make the mistakes so you don't have to, and Fluff out. I almost forgot my intro.